Hey everyone. Occasionally I'll get asked about whether it's a good idea to go to law school or not. And recently my cousin asked the same question and he's now in law school. So rather than just say, no, don't do it, I think it would be helpful to walk through some of the things that people consider when they're going to law school, because I think in a lot of people's minds, they want to go to law school because they want to make a big lawyer salary, and they see that number about how much lawyers make in big law firms, and they think, sure, I'll take that. So first of all, what is the average lawyer salary? And that's kind of a misleading number because it depends where you live. So if we look at this here from ZipRecruiter, uh, varying by state, in New York, for instance, the average annual salary for a lawyer is 123,000. And if you scroll all the way down, in North Carolina, the average lawyer only makes 75,000. And that number is kind of misleading also because when you think about the average, almost nobody makes the average. Either they make a lot more or a lot less than that. So, if I said, what is the average height of a person in the U.S., the average male is about 5'9", 5'10", and about half the people are more than that. Half the people are less than that, but that's a pretty common height. And most of the people are sort of grouped near the middle. But when it comes to lawyer salaries, there's a big range, and there's like a barbell. There's a lot of people on one end, a lot of people on the other end, and almost nothing in the middle. So let's go through big law. So when people think about being a lawyer, they tend to think about working in a big law firm because they see that salary and they think it's a great thing to have. And as you see, this is broken out a couple of years ago by size of the firm. And the smaller the firm, the less you're probably going to get paid. So if you're working at the top firm in New York or uh, Chicago or San Francisco, you're going to make 190,000 to start your first year, plus bonus. And after about 8 years, when you're ready to make partner, usually on average you're going to make 260, and your bonus will be bigger as well. So at 190,000, you might get like a $20,000 bonus, and when you're at this end, you might get a $40,000 or $50,000 annual bonus. So again, this sounds really good, but keep in mind that most people do not become attorneys at big law firms. It's for the very cream of the crop. It's very elitist. So generally, to make it into a big, what we call big law, one of the top paying law firms, international firm with offices everywhere and thousands of attorneys, the easiest path is to go to a top 15 law school and to graduate as close to the top of class as possible and to have done law review and moot court. And the more of those things that you have, the better your chances. And the further you get away from that, the harder your chances. So a person who was a hiring partner at a big law firm gave me good advice once, and it's the only helpful advice I'd ever received with regard to career. He said, in addition to his regular billing, he had to look at resumes, but because he was so busy, he didn't have a whole lot of time to do it. So generally what you would do is look at somebody the way two military people assess each other. He said, if you have two people in the military, they look at the ribbons on their chest, and to somebody who's not in the military, they wouldn't know what any of that means, but to somebody who is, they instantly know their whole life story in 15 minutes. And he said when he looks at a resume, it takes 15 seconds to know somebody's whole life story. So you want to have as many good ribbons on there as possible. Go to good law school, graduate top of the class, law review, moot court, clerkship, and no one has all those ribbons, but you want to have as many of those as possible. And that'll sort of grease the wheels for you to get your first law job at a big law firm. And then after that, you're on your own. But getting the first one is the hardest, and then after that, it's pretty smooth sailing. So when I say the top 15 law schools, there's about 20 top 15 law schools, and why I say that, Some rotate in and out of the top 15, but I think generally if you're in the top 20 and you're in the top half of the class, you'll do fine. So you can go work anywhere in the country at any firm, and I think they'll be happy to have you. So, if you went to Columbia or Yale or Georgetown and you're applying anywhere in the country, I think you should do fine. As you go below that number, the 20 top 15 law schools, it's going to get a little harder. So instead of being in the top half of the class, maybe they'll want you to be in the top 20%. And then if you're a little below that, maybe they'll want you to be top 10%. And if you're in a mediocre law school, maybe they won't look at it at all, or they'll want you to be at the top of the class, top 1%. And that's if you want to go anywhere nationally. There's an exception to that, which is if you went to a sort of not well-known law school, but you're applying to big firms in the city where you live, you should be okay as long as you're in the top of the class. So if I was in, I'll just pick on North Carolina. If I was at a mediocre school in Charlotte, I don't know what that would be, I probably couldn't get into a top law firm in New York City, but I could probably work at the best law firm in Charlotte. If I went to a school in St. Louis that wasn't great, I could probably work at the best firm in St. Louis, but I probably couldn't work in New York. St. Louis, yes, maybe Kansas City, maybe Chicago, but it doesn't travel very far. If you went to a regional school, but the top 20, top 15 law schools, those are very portable. Another thing, extracurriculars. They tend to want to see law review and moot court, and most people don't do both. But if you can do one or the other, fine. If you can do both, even better. Like I said, you want to have as many of those things on your resume to make it easier for you to get that first job. And something else to consider is, again, when we talk about average, what does average mean? And this is from the National Association of Legal Placement or Law Placement. It's a organization that collects this type of thing. And so I think I mentioned, if you were looking at height, you'd see a big thing with everyone clustered around the middle, but almost no one makes the median or mean salary for a lawyer. It looks like a barbell. You have a bunch on one end and a bunch on the other and nothing in the middle. And this is the class of 2001. If we go to 2020, you see the same thing, a barbell on one side and the other, and nothing in the middle. 2019, you got the barbell. 2018, barbell again. So what does that mean? Actually, there's way more people on the low end of the salary that are represented by this, because if you know which are the large law firms, they brag about how much they pay their associates. So everyone who is on this side of the graph is represented, but there's plenty of solo practitioners here, or plenty of law firms where an ALP will send out the questionnaire and then they won't get it back. So everyone that should be on the high side is represented here on the right tail, but the left tail is kind of underrepresented because it's underreported. So this is a lot more people make lower amounts than higher amounts. And again, if you saw the average salary, the mean salary, and said, oh, 109,000, I could live on that. Again, you probably wouldn't make that. You're going to make a lot more, 190,000, or you may be working as a prosecutor for 47. And there's not a whole lot in the middle. Pause this a second. We mentioned this barbell phenomenon here, and you probably say, okay, I'm still going to go to law school and I'm just going to do what I have to do to make it in this end. So the way that you should think about this is if in junior high school and college, you are always at the top of your class, always in the top 1%, then sure, you can apply to a top 15 law school and maybe you'll get into this. But if you were not always in the top of the class and you think, well, I'll still go to law school and I'll kick it up into high gear when I get there, it's probably not going to work for you. So I would advise you to think about that again. And if you were, as I said, always your entire life in the top of the class, in as long as you can remember, and top of your graduated honors from college, and you think you're going to make it to this, once you go to the top 15 or top 20 law school, keep in mind that everyone else in there is also in the top of their class. And if you were in the top 1% of your undergrad and you go to a top 15 law school, and there's 500 people in there, all of them will have been in the top 1% of their class. And so it's very possible that even though you were in the top 1% of your class, you might end up at the bottom of this class, because everyone in there was at the top 1% of their class, and they're all trying to be in the top 1% of this class, and 99% of them are going to fail. And it's not that it's a cruel statement, but that's how math works. Only 1% of the people can be in the 1%. And if you have a room full of people that were previously in the 1%, only 1% of that is going to be in the 1%. So that's something to keep in mind. Also, this salary looks great, especially when you think about the bonus, but there's a few things that you should consider. The places that pay this much are usually in high cost of living cities like New York or San Francisco, and so a lot of that money is going to get eaten up in rent. Also, you're going to be working crazy hours, so you're probably not going to be able to put aside as much money as you think you will. Besides the high cost of living and rent, you're going to be spending so much time at the office that a lot of things that would seem like a luxury if you were making a normal salary are going to be a necessity if you're making this much. So you're going to be eating out a lot and paying for people to do things for you, like drop off and pick up your dry cleaning, because you're going to be working all the time. And when you have a day off, you're not going to want to spend it, running errands and going to the post office. You're going to want to spend as much time as you can billing, so you get that nice big bonus and make your billable quota. But the downside is that you're going to have to be paying for a lot of things that other people wouldn't consider paying for, because it would seem like wasteful spending, and you're going to be living in a high cost of living city. So a lot of that's going to get eaten up. And also, you're going to be making a lot, and especially with a bonus. And the goal is usually to keep doing that until you're about an 8th year, and then you want to make partner. And a lot of these places have what they call an up or out system, where if you don't make partner, you're going to have to leave. So, it's something where people are going to pull out all the stops and they try to bill as much as they can, because they don't want to be in the out part of that up or out. They want to make partner. And, when you're an associate, you're working crazy hours, but you're making a lot of money. And the goal is to make partner, where you're going to make even more money and you're going to have even more hours working. So one way to think about it, if you want to do this, is you're signing up for a pie eating contest where the first prize is more pie. And, if that's what you want to do, fine. But, it's not for everyone. So something else to consider, if you just want to practice law and money's not a big deal to you, maybe you don't want to go to a top law school. Maybe you want to go someplace where they would give you a bigger scholarship or something like that, so you would graduate with less debt. And that's something to consider, because when I was in Georgetown, there were many people there who had gotten into Harvard or Yale and would have had to have paid full price, but they ended up going to Georgetown because they got a free ride. And I met a lot of people who went to American University, and they had gotten into Georgetown but would have had to pay full price, but they went to American for free. And then I'm sure a lot of people that got into American and would have to pay full price went to a lesser school than that and got to go for free. So that's something to consider, because if you don't graduate with hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, then if you don't get into this side of the barbell where you make a lot of money, you'll still be okay. And you can, on purpose, go to the other side of the barbell if you want. If you want to work as something in the public interest as a prosecutor, or for a nonprofit, or for the government, federal government, something like the Department of Justice, that opens up a lot of avenues for you if you don't have a ton of student debt. So, just something to consider about where you go. You might not necessarily want to go to the best possible school that you got into if you can go to a lesser school for free. So that's just something to think about. And yeah, so with regard to me, I didn't work at a huge law firm. I worked at a firm that I guess would be considered mid-size. There were about 60 something attorneys in 2 cities. We had offices, and it was pretty specialized. So I got to work on mergers and acquisitions in the cable, energy, and telecom industries. So I got to work on some big clients like AOL, Time Warner, Adelphia, and really interesting work, really nice people. And because it was a mid-sized firm instead of a huge firm, I feel it was more collegial. I didn't have to bill as many hours. So, it's probably 10% less than I would have made at a huge law firm, 10 or 15% less. But, I got to work less hours. It was, a much more manageable workload and quality of life. And rather than, dozens of partners, I had 3 partners who I worked for primarily. About 80% of the work I did for 2 partners and 20% for another. And of those 2 partners, one was very demanding and a workaholic, but I did learn a lot from him. And the other one was a super nice guy, and I also learned a lot from him. And besides being a great lawyer, he's just a great person, and I still keep in touch with him to this day. So I don't regret working at the firm. I thought it was a great experience. The only thing I kind of was difficult for me was it was very stressful, because in that field of law, it was kind of like feast or famine. So when I was working on closing a deal, sometimes you'd be working 16 hours a day, and then the deal would close, and then you wouldn't have a lot to do, but you're sort of responsible for the same amount of hours, and it averages out to that 2,000 hour thing. But it was very lumpy. And yeah, so if the hours had been smoother and I was less stressed out, maybe I would have enjoyed it more. But I did learn a lot, and I definitely don't regret anything. And to each his own. But this is from what I've learned working there. And if it helps you, it helps you. And if you want to do this, fine. And if not, that's fine too. So if you have any questions, just put them below, and I'll try to be responsive to that. And like and subscribe so you'll see further updates when I post them. And if there's any So if I had to do it over again, would I go to law school? Maybe. I think I had a great experience in the law firm I worked at and the place I worked after, where I still am. And had I to do over again, I think I would think about that carefully, because one of the things I really want to do is live abroad. And my better half and I have talked about living abroad. And her company, she can work anywhere. She's worked out of their Stockholm office, their Paris office, and now their DC office. But I sort of, the type of law I do, it doesn't lend itself to living abroad. And one thing I noticed is that, if you're a auto mechanic and you go to a different country, you're still an auto mechanic. If you're a doctor, you go to a different country, you're still a doctor. You're an economist here, you're an economist over there. But if you're an attorney and you go to a different country, you're just a tourist. Even if you leave your state, unless you go to another state that has reciprocity, you're not allowed to practice. So you're kind of limited in your ability to be mobile. And I know some of that's changed with the advent of telework and things like that, but still, it's something that's not as portable as other professions. So if I had to do it over again, maybe I wouldn't have gone to law school. I think the salary's fine, but I do enjoy investing on the side. And if had I do over again, maybe I would have done something with computer programming, which you could have done anywhere, or maybe I would have just directly gone into something dealing with investing and start out on the sell side, as everyone does, and then move over to the buy side and maybe manage a fund or manage my own money. Who knows? But it's something that I think about. But at this point in my career, I'm just committed to the law because I'm good at it, and I make a decent living, and it would be difficult to switch now. But it is something that to keep in mind. Where do you want to live? What kind of lifestyle do you want to have? Looking at this barbell, if you want to be on that right side of the barbell where you make the most money, you're going to be living in a big city with high cost of living, and the law doesn't lend itself to living in other countries or even in other states in many times. So normally, if you have clients in other states, normally if you have clients in other states, you still practice at your office in whatever state you're in. It doesn't lend itself to you moving around a lot. And again, on this right side there, you do make a lot of money, but you kind of have to aim for partner because a lot of firms have this upper out thing. So if you don't get promoted to partner, you're going to be expected to leave, and maybe you can get something in-house at a client where you'll be the in-house lawyer. But if not, what are your options? If you are a litigator and you worked at one of these small firms doing something that doesn't pay as much, like personal injury or criminal stuff or family law, you can always leave and start your own firm. But if you're on this side of the thing where you have big clients, you could be an associate, and if you leave, maybe one of your clients was Microsoft. But if you leave and start your own firm as a one-man shop or one-woman shop, Microsoft probably isn't going to follow you. So you're kind of limited in that respect in terms of your career options afterwards. So anyway, that's just other things to think about. If you've got other questions, just put them below. This is my experiences working in the legal field and interacting with a lot of people in big law. And I myself worked in what would be called mid-law. And I will have somebody here, a good friend who worked in big law and actually clerked for federal appellate court, and maybe he can give his input on that on a future episode. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed it, and leave any comments below. Thank you.